Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Decision Hour. I'm your host, Adam Bird. It's great to be back behind the mic. We live in a crazy world right now, and I am super stoked to bring you a very special guest today. I was introduced to her recently on social media since we're all practicing kind of the social distancing things right now. So it was great chit-chatting with her. Met her over social media on Instagram, and I'm loving what she is doing, and she's got a ton of stuff that she's going to be talking with us today about. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my new friend, Andrea Vitz. Andrea, how you doing?
Hi there. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and thank you for asking.
You got it.
I appreciate you coming on the show today. I love what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
You have I found you on Instagram, or we found each other on Instagram, and your Instagram page is Levelheaded Doc, right?
Yes.
I freaking love that. And then you go through, you got some great content on there. And before, I'm getting excited here, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we jump into that, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Dr. Andrea Vitz, aka Levelheaded Doc. I am a chiropractor and an emotional sobriety educator, or pioneer of an upcoming emotional sobriety movement, so to speak.
Yes.
I also am a strength and conditioning coach, an athlete, and I have a wonderful family, a daughter and a husband, and that's about it. I mean, my life is very full. I have a lot of
You seem so big, like a chiropractor, an athlete, a coach. I mean, a wife and a mother. Do you wish you had more time to do stuff?
No, I have all the time. I do. I feel like I have unlimited energy and unlimited time.
Oh, man, that is awesome. Listen, I want to dive right into this emotional sobriety, because that was one of the big things I saw on your social media pages and whatnot. What does that mean? I mean, like, emotional sobriety, what does that mean? Tell people what do you mean by that?
Well, emotional sobriety is a really interesting topic, because almost everyone I meet says, well, what is that? Right? So you're not alone there. Really, when we think of sobriety, we usually think about somebody who's not addicted to drugs or alcohol.
Okay.
And sobriety actually has a lot of different meanings that have nothing to do with drugs or alcohol, like being level-headed and clear and mindful and respectable, and all these things that we really don't even consider as a part of sobriety. Okay. So emotional sobriety is essentially a training that I've developed to help people overcome their emotional addiction, which makes them unclear, which makes them dysfunctional, which makes them not level-headed in their life. So I call that emotional insobriety, or emotional belligerence. It's the same as being drunk on alcohol or drugs. You also can become drunk on your emotions. And I'm sure you've experienced this as a human being, and I'm sure everybody listening has experienced it, feeling a lack of self-control when under the influence of emotion. Yeah. So that is my duty, really, is to help people individually and as a community rid themselves of the things that have control over them. Because if something can control how you feel, it can control you.
Now, when the emotional side of it, because there's different emotions, right? You have like happy, anger, sad, and so forth. So if somebody's imbalanced in one area or the other, you kind of guide them to fix that certain area. Is that a safe assessment? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's close. Yeah, I mean, I have really consolidated the negative emotions, because that's really what we're trying to rid ourselves of.
Right.
Of resentment, anger, guilt, embarrassment, fear, and sadness. So the things that really kind of blindside us or take us out. The things that we don't feel strong enough to be against, like we feel a little helpless or hopeless and in those situations. So I just teach people to become self-reliant and to be rigorously honest, and all the things that keep them from being the person or the main contributor to their own life.
Listen, before we get too deep in this because I got another big question I want to ask you here. People that are listening right now, that means you're already online. Open up another browser. Doc, where can they go and find your information? Where can they follow you?
Okay, so the best place to follow me right now would be just to go to my website at levelheadeddoc.com.
Okay.
You could also go to any social media, Facebook or Instagram, same exact name, Levelheaded Doc.
All right. So
and if you want information, you can just type your email in there and we'll get back to you on that.
Perfect. So now I want to go back. Can you kind of give us an example of what you would do for somebody? Like let's say for me, there's times where I'm just overwhelmed and I don't know if I'm angry or sad or feel like throat punching somebody.
Right.
And the thing that bothers me the most about it is then I get really upset because I don't know why I'm upset. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So that's where the term sobriety really makes sense, right? Because what we found in modern research and neuroscience is that we are actually all chemical addicts. But when you're not doing drugs or alcohol, you're a biochemical addict. You are absolutely addicted to the emotions or the biochemistry that you made since childhood. And what you're talking about is emotional intelligence, which is a very important component of emotional sobriety. It's the awareness of your emotions.
Okay.
So to recognize what you're feeling and why and where they come from, that's just the first part, because you could be absolutely intelligent. I mean, I've worked with a lot of belligerent people, including myself in the past, who have been so aware of what they're feeling, but they have no tools to change that. And that's where I come in.
Now, are you seeing how do I say this? Like an influx of people right now, given the current world situation with this coronavirus going on and people kind of getting locked into their, houses and stuff like that. Are you, because I've only been home for about 4 days and I'm already starting to feel claustrophobic. But I lived a lifestyle where I'm constantly on the road. So it's nice to be home, but at the same time, I'm kind of like itching for, when am I going to get back out on the road again, kind of thing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because I think a lot of people right now are feeling that stillness and having to be alone with themselves, even if their house is full of other people. And they're being starved of their norm. They're being starved of their normal distractions, right? Or what I would call their secondary addictions.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Their ability to be in a routine keeps them in some level of control. Right. And it keeps their emotions at bay, so to speak, or at least distracts them from those emotions. Right. And that's why you'll find a lot of people right now will be turning to different secondary things like drinking more. Right. And a lot of people may be gaining weight because they're turning to food. Right. No. Don't do it.
Everybody's laughing right now because they've listened to this show for a long time and know I'm a foodie. So it's like, yeah, it's not good, people. Adam will be getting some new clothes once the stores open back up.
But that really brings up another really valid point for me, is that our emotions, for the most part, aren't going to take our lives, but our secondary addictions like alcohol and food and drugs absolutely can and will if we do enough of it. So that was the primary reason for me choosing this to create and develop this movement and this curriculum, is because secondary addictions are all derivatives of our primary addiction. So if someone is a drug addict or someone is a food addict or has an eating disorder or compulsively chews their nails, that isn't the addiction. Their addiction, in my opinion, is always the biochemical or emotional addiction. It's the thing that we're feeling that we're trying to escape from.
Okay. Let me ask you this. With everything that's going on right now, is there a positive side of people staying home and being kind of quarantined, if you will, the virus side of it aside, but the people that have addictions and whatnot, is this like a good time or a great opportunity for them to kind of break those addictions? So when everything goes back to the norm, if you will, that they can kind of go out with a new perspective on life?
Absolutely. This is such a gift. Of course, it's sad that we're losing people to this virus. But it's such a gift to us to really take a moment, especially if we aren't leaving our homes and we're not going to work, and those things are different. If it creates space for you to be able to look at yourself, and specifically doing this work, because it really provides you the opportunity to see what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and how to overcome it specifically, as opposed to just being aware of it. Sometimes becoming aware of how you're feeling almost makes it worse, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I am so angry. Oh, I'm so just devastated, and I hate myself and I hate my life. And I mean, it's a lot easier to say, oh, let's have a glass of wine or a bottle of wine. But that will actually take your life. So you're already limiting your quality of life by feeling this way with your primary chemical addiction. So just covering up just makes you sicker and sicker. Covering up your lies and covering up your secrets and covering up the things that are making you fearful. That all needs to be uncovered. So this is an absolutely wonderful time to do that. In fact, I just launched my first workshop, which was going to be in person, but it moved to Zoom.
Okay.
And it's a 21-day intensive. And it literally landed right at the beginning of all this. It couldn't have been more perfectly timed and synchronistic. So people have the opportunity to actually spend time looking at themselves. And I think feeling support of a community is the most important thing in this kind of healing. And that's what we're building.
Now they can go and sign up for the workshop on your website, correct?
They can actually log in to go into that website, put their email in, and then I will have their email and be able to send them information. Or they can go to Facebook and friend me or follow me on Levelheaded Doc or my personal page, Andrea Vitz, and send me a direct message. Okay. Instagram, same thing. And I'll get them hooked up with the next one that launches this next Thursday.
So listen, folks, if you're listening to the show right now, that means you're already online. Open up another browser and you can check out our website, levelheadeddoc.com, and also on all the social media platforms as well. 21-day workshop on Zoom. What can they expect in that workshop? Can you give us kind of a teaser?
Of course I can. So I'm a very, very direct person, and it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. I don't do this with kittens, right? That's what I always say. If you want real change, you got to work hard. And it is 21 days, and it's dispersed very evenly throughout the 21 days. You will meet with me live 3 separate times once a week for a 3-hour lecture and discussion. But then it's all up to you to connect with the community and do your homework. And it is really, really hard. In fact, I always say it takes a gritty and brave person to endure the emotional sobriety training. It really, really does.
Wow.
They're a special group of people that are really ready to take responsibility of their life and make real change. It's impressive.
I'm blown away right now. Like parts of me wants to go sign up, and the other part of me is, I'm not gonna lie, is a little scared.
Yeah, totally normal. And that's why it's so important to have the community, because the second you recognize that everybody is really the same, I mean, everyone's in the same boat. No one's talking about it. And that's why emotional sobriety is going to become the most sought after trait. It's going to become I always say it's going to be the sexiest thing in the world, because people are going to start changing their vocabulary around it. They're going to, if I wanted to hook you up with my friend, you might ask me, well, how emotionally sober is she? Right? As opposed to, well, what does she look like? And what kind of job does she have? And how much money does she make? Right?
and at my age, believe me, it's the emotional side of things that are much more important than anything else.
It's so important. And when you really meet somebody with that kind of foundation, it's a completely different potential for connection and growth. And that's what this community is going to be contributing. It's, wow, look how humble and vulnerable that person was posting that. Oh, I can do that too. It's just getting that invitation and joining up with this really brave group makes a big difference. It's an army.
So folks, make sure you check that out. That's the 21-day workshop. And you said that starts next Thursday.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And my second one will be. Yeah.
Okay. And for those of you that are listening to this show after that particular date, let me just pull up my calendar here. I believe that would be, the workshop starts on April 2nd.
Yes.
So that's actually, by the time you guys hear this will be this Thursday coming out. Or if you've listened to it after the 2nd, now you know where to go to, levelheadeddoc.com to get involved and get signed up there. Andrea, you got a book coming out as well, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I do. I'm so excited about it.
Well, let's
A
talk
lot of
about
years.
it. Yeah. So what's the name of the book? What's the book about?
So it's called The You You've Never Met.
Okay.
And it is essentially becoming emotionally sober, the how to overcome, the chaos in your life and the negative biochemical emotional addiction that you've had since childhood and been totally unaware of. And it's really a supportive manual in that. It's very transformative. It took me many years to write it. It took a lot of thousands and thousands of hours of experience to develop and to download, so to speak, from the field around me. I'm so humbled that I was chosen to be the medium for that. But I was a little hesitant at first and reluctant because I was such a busy person.
Right.
When this all started to kind of come through me. But I recognized pretty early on that I didn't really have a choice. So that's what I say about callings, right? They're non-negotiable.
That's awesome. So now when does that come out? When can people expect to see that out and available for purchase? Or are you doing pre-orders right now?
We aren't doing pre-orders right now because that book's going to be out in April.
Perfect. All right.
Yep.
So we got to make sure. Go ahead.
I'll be loud about it.
Awesome. And we're going to make sure that we have all this information up on our social media platforms, as well as Heroes Media Group platforms as well. It is the You Never Met. Did I say that right?
The You You've Never Met. Yep.
That is such a great title.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's exactly what it is. So it was the only title.
No, I mean, it really is. I'm really digging what you're doing. The emotional sobriety stuff is awesome. I just Levelheaded Doc. That's just a great name in itself, as well. We're getting ready to come up on time here, pretty soon. What else do you want to tell the people, our listeners, about what you're doing?
Gosh, what I'm doing is I'm asking everyone to take the hand of someone they know and say, hey, let's do this together. Let's really change our lives. Let's change ourselves. And let's promote stability and clarity and level-headedness for everyone around us and our children and our family members, and just be this example of what humans can actually be. We're just full of love and potential and all this greatness. And I think we forget that. And I'm really here to remind people, you are so powerful, you are so amazing and so worthy. And I think it's time to start really tapping into that and doing some real work on ourselves. We'll spend an hour in the gym, we'll spend, money on, so many things to quote, improve ourselves.
Right.
But where you're scared to look is where you need to start.
That's powerful right there. Levelheadeddoc.com. Folks, check it out. Andrea, I got one more question for you.
Yes.
You're on a show called The Decision Hour, and we all make decisions every single day, right?
Yes.
Name a time in your life where your feet were on the line and you had to make that decision.
Oh,
what was it, and what was the atmosphere like when you were going through it?
Oh, okay. So my decision was 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
I was very emotionally unsober. I was hysterical. I was a compulsive liar. I was a attention-seeking addict, if you will. Yes, sometimes I used alcohol to numb my feelings, but I was never an alcoholic. Thank goodness it never got me like that. And I never, used hard drugs or anything, but I can absolutely understand how some people can get there. But yes, I was the epitome, in my opinion, of an emotionally unsober person. And I had met my current husband, who I respect so immensely. And just his mirroring back to me what I was actually doing and who I was actually being was at first taken quite defensively on my part, which is to be expected from an emotionally unsober person. I had no self-responsibility in my body, even though I was incredibly successful. I was a doctor at 23. I was a mom at 25. I had great friendships, I thought, and really thought I was contributing to the world in a really powerful way. But that's not enough. I had no control over my behaviors. I had no control over my emotions and the way I treated other people. And it was hard to look at and hard to hear. But one day he said to me, I just want you to be real. I want the real you. And I honestly, I didn't know what that meant. And that's when I started really looking, because I had been introduced to the concept of like the 12 steps for behavioral addiction before.
Okay.
And I considered doing them then, but now I'm like, maybe I'll look again, because these are questions about looking at yourself, right? And so the 12-step process actually really nudged me in the direction of sobriety. It made me look at myself in an honest way, because I would read the questions and not be honest about the answers. And the moment I realized I was lying to myself, oh my gosh, I realized I was in trouble. And I tell this to my students all the time. If you can lie to other people, you're going to have unhealthy relationships. But if you can lie to yourself, you're in big trouble, right? If that truth is right behind your eyes and you just keep ignoring it, you're in big trouble. So what he did for me was he inspired me to be courageous and look. And that's when I realized I have to make a decision. It wasn't about losing him as a partner. It was about I was not living my life. I wasn't alive yet. So I really dove in and started doing the work and made huge decisions, had to leave certain groups of people in my life, not because they were unworthy, but because I couldn't trust myself in those relationships anymore until I got better. And I didn't know who to trust in my life. So I had to separate and make decisions based on a more level ground. And it took me a few years to get to a place where I felt like I'm really self-reliant. And it's not about trusting other people. It's about trusting yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's about, people say that all the time, like, well, you really, picked a partner that you could really trust. And it's like, well, it's not about trusting him. I mean, there's a component of trusting someone in your life, but I trust me. I trust how I would respond to any circumstance that might come up. And so my decision hour was probably that day that I committed to becoming the me I'd never met, really.
That's deep. That is so deep and so profound. And I thank you so much for sharing that, because and I like the fact that you looked within yourself. I don't think out of the 200 plus episodes that I've done over the last several years, or I've had somebody come in and say that the first thing that they did was look within themselves.
Well, you know what?
If you have not problems, easy,
Yeah, if you have problems in your life, there's one common denominator.
Yeah, that's so true.
So true. And when we take responsibility for the problems in our life, we get to change it. It's like when you take responsibility, it sounds like you're taking the blame, right? But no, you're taking responsibility for your part in the problem, how you're responding to the problem, and how you're looking at the problem. And when you do that, you have all this power. It's like all of a sudden someone gave you the keys to all the solutions.
I got to throw this in there because you're making a good point right there. I think when you take responsibility for something that you're definitely a part of, I think once it all works itself out, it's not as bad as if you sat there and kept lying to yourself about it and try to play through it that way. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, because you can spend the next 7 years of your life having the same argument in your head with someone who's not there. Yeah. It's a huge waste of energy. When you funnel that energy into solution, and you're just in a completely different position. And honestly, there's only ever one problem, in my opinion. And that to me is just not being emotionally sober and not having the confidence and the self-reliance and knowing how whole you already are and that you're not breakable. Even if you feel broken, it's not a possibility. So you're under this illusion, right, all the time about you should feel angry. You should feel sad. You should feel afraid. In which case, like, none of those things should really apply. I can't tell you the last time I was angry. Like I really, right? I just don't feel angry because I constantly can see everything through this huge lens of understanding. And when you climb out of this deep pit of insobriety and all the lies that you've been told and all the lies that you've been telling, you see this light and everything is so clear. And I can't explain it to the level of what it would be like for you to experience it on your own, but I can encourage you to do it and know that you have a place to land amongst our community.
Folks, those of you that are listening to this, maybe there's probably a lot of you that are listening to this that need to get sober. And emotional sobriety is a great place to start right here, right now. You're listening to this, you're already online. Open up another browser, go to levelheadeddoc.com, fill out the information, let Andrea get a hold of you and make contact and take a step in the right direction. Andrea, I appreciate your time today for coming on here and talking with myself and the listeners.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Folks, that's all the time that we have today. Levelheaded Doc, check her out. Social media, also levelheadeddoc.com. Before we let you go, huge shout out to our parent network, Heroes Media Group. Go to www.heroesmediagroup.com. Check out all the new shows, articles that are going up there. If you are thinking about becoming part of the HMG family, shoot us an email. Again, go to www.heroesmediagroup.com. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.